I'm Tim Jones from Oxford Brookes University, and I work in the School of the Built Environment. And I want to talk to you a little bit first about me as an expert. So I've worked as a regeneration agency, a private transport consultancy in the university, and my interest is really around sustainable transport, particularly around walking and cycling, how that can be encouraged and supported. That's been my kind of main focus over my university career. I thought I'd say a bit about me as a person as well. I'm a traveller like you. I've got my values and perspectives on moving around. So I live in East Oxford, on the border of a low traffic neighbourhood. I'm a single parent. I try to reduce my impact as best as I can. I'm not saying this to sound pious, but I try to walk and cycle short journeys, and I'm also a vegetarian and vegan. Obviously, you still know how agriculture has an impact on climate change. However, I own a diesel van, and I run a diesel van. I have issues around that. So I suppose the point I'm making is that, yes, I'm an expert, but I'm not perfect. Like you, striving to reduce my impact. So the three challenges I see, and that some of the speakers have talked about, is ageing society. Susan talked about ageing society and health and wellbeing impacts around achieving sustainable development, and also the climate emergency. Those are the triple challenges. So I operate in the interface of the School of the Built Environment and how the built environment can affect behaviour. But of course, we shouldn't be under any illusions that the built environment is only one solution. It operates in an ecosystem of other factors. So I'm talking in that context. Tim's already talked about size of vehicles changing. We'll think about how the environment has changed over the last century or more. So I've taken a few postcards here from the USA, LA and Phoenix, so you can see what hyper-motorised society looks like visually. It's got, massive impact on demands of space, in terms of danger and hostile environment for other road users. I'd argue deterioration of the public realm. I know some people get excited about that type of infrastructure, but you could argue that's actually deteriorated all of the other activities or things that allow other needs to be met. Of course, there's local and global pollution associated with that, Suzanne's outlined in her speech, and then obviously around health and obesity in terms of people being more sedentary and how they operate in their everyday lives. Okay, so that's just sort of painting a picture of a hyper-motorised society at the extreme, if you like, to think about what we could be doing in our context in Oxford. So my key point one really is that we need to support a more diverse range of people to walk and cycle in our towns and cities for short distances. I'm not talking here about, superhuman long distance walks or cycles. I'm talking about just the general everyday short journeys around town. And that needs to support both younger people and older people. I think in thinking about an age-friendly city, we need to think about it in that context of supporting people through the life course, from a young age going to school through to older age and retirement. So how can we do that in a built environment sense? Well, we can think about relocating road space in our city to create more space for cycling and walking. So thinking carefully about the space that we appropriate to moving around as we do at the moment, and thinking about how that could be reconfigured to support some of the other things to flourish. So what would that mean then? Let's take London Road, Headington. So that might be thinking about how we can dedicate space to walking and cycling, how we can think more strategic with the engineers to reconfigure that space to support walking and cycling through those corridors and for people to feel safe in doing that and for it to be convenient. And then thinking about our residential areas, the streets outside our front door, thinking about what they have become and the potential for them to flourish and to allow other things to flourish, as Tim's related to, other capabilities, if you like. I've just got a few images there. So that's 2004. Apologies for the poor photography. It was my photography in 2004 on a digital camera back in those days. But this is my trip to the Netherlands here, Utrecht, on a separated cycleway on a main road. That's what I'm thinking about in terms of the main roads, how they could look here. And then also in Hennef in Germany, on Frankfurter Straße, where play equipment was put in the streets for children to interact in space with parents, grandparents, and some youths I took a picture of just, casually riding around the streets. Obviously, don't feel the need to wear helmets or protective equipment because it's so mundane and casual to do that. It's not exceptional, it's just something that's taken for granted. Key point 2, and somebody's already mentioned this, thinking about opportunities for people to try out these things that they might never have done, quite frankly. It might not just be in their experience in life, but to support opportunities to try out different cycling opportunities. In this case, I think there's a real potential here for electric micro-mobilities, as it's called, or electric bikes and other electric small vehicles. That offers the potential for a broader range of people to have a go at cycling and to reap the benefits that are associated with physical and mental health. So I was involved in a project where we involved the older population in trying out e-bikes over an 8-week period, and they kept diaries and we did some measures of them. We've got evidence on how that supported them in terms of their mental well-being and cognition, in terms of, for example, spatial trying to think of a really clear word here, wayfinding, ability to kind of navigate, get around, orientate themselves. So it really had benefits in that respect. And I've just got a link there if you want to have a look at some of the videos of the participants from that, talking about their experience. So that's an opportunity for people to be trained to use those different types of vehicles that might be used to using, to try them out. I was in Holland in 2010 in the city of Groningen, which has got the highest rates of cycling in Europe, and there was somebody in the town centre with electric bikes with a massive crowd around them, being able to touch them, feel them, ask questions, and actually do a little ride around the square, which was fantastic to see. That's when I first got interested in what are these things, why are they flourishing in the Netherlands where people cycle anyway. So that was the journey. Tackling the misperception that they're cheating, they're not, they're just assisting. You still have to pedal and move your body and think, all of those things when you're moving around. So tackling that misperception, stigma that it's cheating, and thinking about the last mile possibility. So I think, is it Diane?
Yeah, Diana.
Diane was talking about last mile possibilities in terms of deliveries. There's potential here for small light electric vehicles, pedicabs, to transfer parcels and bulky items into the city centres rather than big lorries penetrating right to the heart. So that's another opportunity there, another point I'd like to make. So in summary then, in my last minute, I think what I would say is we need to obviously acknowledge the damage that unfettered car use and motor vehicle use is doing to our society and planet, as the other speakers have elaborated. And we need to think about what type of city, what type of environment we would like to live in ourselves, but also future generations, maybe grandchildren, your own grandchildren or future grandchildren. We need to be open-minded and learn about what more advanced countries, I mean that in the sense of advanced transport policy towards the ends I've talked about, have achieved in Northern Europe, because I'd argue they're well ahead of us. They're sort of 30, 40 years ahead of us in that respect. And, just to say, I know I'm talking about another country, it's like, well, that's different there. People are just like us. So, maybe you'd like to talk to Tim after about that. Tim is Dutch, so it might be interesting to hear his from a Dutch experience. But I'd argue people are no different there. They've been through the same struggles, but they've done it much earlier and established those sorts of rights I talked about. We need to re-establish streets as our most important public spaces and think about them more broadly as than just functional space of moving things through them. That includes cycles as well, I'd argue. We need to think about them as places for walking, wheeling, playing, lingering, partying, if you like, street parties. We need to think more broadly about the role of streets. And then finally, we need to think about new and emerging forms of electric mobility. So you might like to think about deliberations on that for on electric scooters in your discussions. And just to make the point really, not everybody wants to ride a bicycle. Yeah, not everybody wants to do that in its current guise. But I'd argue that there's a potential here to think about how cycling could be reconfigured so that actually it's as mundane as walking, if you like. It's as mundane as walking. You don't have to think about it, you don't have to be superhuman, you don't have to be really, really quick in traffic. You can do it in a very pedestrian manner.